Melissa Baker is suing fellow motorist Jesus Escobar for car damage after an accident.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2159, Baker versus Escobar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This case involves an automobile accident. Ms. Baker, you are seeking $10,000 from Mr. Escobar, who you claim caused the accident and you a lot of grief. The accident happened on what date?
It happened on May the 18th, 2021.
Was your car insured at the time?
Yes.
Yes. And your car was insured at the time?
Yes.
Great. I don't want you to get into the specifics of the accident just yet. What I'd like you to tell me was, prior to May 18th, who were you working for?
Brand Lighting.
What were you doing for them?
I drove a forklift. I load and unload trailers.
How long had you worked for them?
About a year and a half.
Prior to that, where did you work?
I think it was distribution.
From when to when?
I worked for them for about 4 years.
Prior to that, were you constantly employed or were you on disability?
Yes, no, I was constantly employed. I was constantly employed.
Okay, prior to working for the place where you had been working in May, were you ever on any sort of disability?
Yeah,
From when to when?
May the 19th, I applied for disability because I went to the doctor.
I'm not talking about it as a result of this accident, Ms. Baker. I'm asking you, were you ever on disability before this accident?
No.
You were injured before this accident. You had a back injury before this accident. When did that take place?
That happened in 1999.
And what happened in 1999?
We had opened up the PIC module and the supervisors was there and we was walking them to show them the new opening of it. And the floors was made out of gates, but the gates wasn't pushed together and so my foot slipped down between there and my back slammed into one of the steel beams.
And were you out on any sort of a disability after 1999?
Yes, ma'am.
From when to when?
Well, I was out on disability with that, and I was out for 2 years.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was out for 2 years.
In 1999. How long were you out on disability?
I was out for 2 years.
And the nature of your disability was the back injury?
Yes, ma'am.
So you went back to work in 2001?
Yes, ma'am.
For whom?
Hospital.
What were you doing there?
I was a supervisor in the storeroom.
How long were you working there?
I worked for 3 years.
After 2001, was there ever a period of time that you went back on disability?
I'm trying to think, yes.
And from what year to what year?
I want to say it was like 2005. My thumb got amputated off of my hand at work.
And how long were you out on disability?
A year and a half.
After that?
I think that's it for the disability. I went to work after that.
This accident occurred on May 18th, 2021. After May 18th, 2021, did you go on disability?
Yes.
From when to when?
From May of 2021 to August of 2022.
And the nature of your disability on all 3 occasions was injury to your back?
No, one of them was when my thumb got amputated off of my right hand.
Did you have any surgery on your back ever?
No, ma'am.
And you received disability from May of 2021 to August of 2022 in what amount?
I think it was $1,160 every 2 weeks.
So about $2,200 a month.
Yes.
And what happened in August of 2022?
Benefits was exonerated.
Ceased.
Yes.
And you went back to work?
No, I have not been back to work.
How are you supporting yourself now?
I just applied for unemployment right now to try to help me with my bills and my rent because I'm behind in everything.
May 2021, what was the date of the accident?
May 18th, 2021.
According to your complaint, you were traveling in the right lane of a highway. The defendant was traveling in the middle lane?
Correct.
And he veered off into your lane in order to make a right turn, struck your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. He says not true. His response says that he was in the middle lane, he was going into the right lane, and you sped up and wouldn't let him in. Is that what your defense is?
Your
and your cars collide. Or she hit you?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
That is not true.
And the damage to your car, which was the red car, was where?
He caught me from when I swerved, so he caught me from the side and he slid up to the bumper. So he hit the bumper right there and that part of it.
Do you have photographs?
I do.
Of the
I have
car?
photos,
I'd like to take
Your
a
Honor.
look at the photographs, please.
So may I explain to you what happened, Your Honor?
With what?
May I explain to you how the incident occurred?
When did you get these estimates?
Oh, I just went to go get those estimates yesterday. I talked to them on the phone before then.
No, I don't care whether you talk to them on the phone. These estimates say you just got them within the last couple of days.
Melissa Baker claims fellow motorist Jesus Escobar damaged her vehicle while changing lanes.
Well, this was your car.
Yes, that's my car.
And this is the passenger front panel.
When he hit me, the bumper was hanging, and so then I had to pull it off because it was dragging the ground. I couldn't drive my car like that, so I ended up pulling the whole thing off. And so that's how come you see that damage on the other side of the car, too.
You have pictures of your car, sir?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. Anybody have a police report?
I have a over-the-counter report because once.
No. I just asked if anybody has a police report of this accident. I'd like to take a look at it. Where did you get this from?
I went to the police department the next day and did an over-the-counter report because he asked me not to call the police.
Just a second. My question to you is, where did you get this from to make a picture of it?
Oh, I had took a picture of it with my phone and emailed it to my attorneys. And so when they sent me a collective packet, that's how they sent it back to me.
Did either one of you receive a citation or a ticket as a result of this accident?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Were the police called?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Mr. Escobar, when he got out the car, he asked me if I was okay, and he asked me not to call the police because he's a truck driver and he did not want that point on his driver's license. He also asked for me to pull over to the side of the road over on 4th Street so that we wouldn't be blocking the intersection and the traffic.
Well, that's a good idea.
I took a picture of his insurance information.
You remember that conversation, Mr. Escobar?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And so you said you would pay for the damage to her car.
I offered. I was trying to be
Just a second. You said I'd...
Yes.
Well, that's a yes.
Yes.
That sounds reasonable. You said, I'll pay for the damage. Don't call the police. I don't want this to be on my license. I'll pay for the damage.
Correct.
Right?
It's bored to it, but hopefully I could have a chance to tell you what my side of the story is. But yes, that's what I said.
I passed your side of the story.
Okay.
Now I have an accident. You say one thing, she says another. Well, moving on to the next issue. The next issue is she says and you acknowledge that you told her, please don't call the police. I'll pay for the damage.
Correct.
I don't want to go through my insurance.
Yes.
Okay, so you agreed to pay for her damage.
Yes.
Do you have an estimate for your damage?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at it.
So I actually have two different estimates.
Did you ever have the car fixed?
No.
Okay. Thank you. What kind of car is this and what year?
It's a 2012 Kia Optima.
And you own that outright?
Yes.
When did you get these estimates?
Oh, I just went to go get those estimates yesterday. I talked to them on the phone before then.
No, I don't care whether you talk to them on the phone. These estimates say you just got them within the last couple of days.
Yeah, no,
well, this accident happened a year ago.
Yes. So I called some people to get some estimates, and they gave me some estimates over the phone. And so I called Mr. Escobar, and I told him what the estimates were.
No, listen to me carefully. What you just gave me were estimates that you got 2 days ago, which is a year and a half after this accident.
Right. Well,
okay, I want to know where the estimate is for $1,700. That's the estimate that you called him with the next day after the accident.
No, yeah.
The next day after the accident, you called him and said, it cost me $1,700 to fix it. These say $4,600. Just show me the estimate for $1,700.
These are from his, that's from his insurance company. Actually, when I called him to give him the estimates of the people that I talked to on the phone, he didn't respond to me.
Listen to me carefully, madam. I'm reading from your complaint. I took my car in for an estimate.
Yes.
The next day, and I texted him the amount. He said that he did not have $1,700, and he asked if I could wait for a month. I needed to get my car fixed before then, and he suggested that we go through insurance after all. You took your car in, according to you.
Yes.
You got an estimate for $1,700.
Okay, I didn't get it in right.
Okay.
Okay, that's...
You got an estimate for $1,700. He said, I can't get you the money right away, so you went through insurance.
Correct.
Okay, so all of a sudden it doesn't grow into $4,600.
Well, May I?
Yeah.
Okay. So the man gave me the estimate for the $1,700, but what he did inform me was that once
No,
they
you
start
can't
to
tell me
take-
what he informed you, madam.
Well, basically
you can't,
what-
not basically.
Well,
You-
can I tell
not
you what these
basically.
people? Can I
No.
tell you what these people
No.
said?
You can't tell me what those people said either.
Well, I was trying to explain to you why it went to $4,300, but it's the same
It's
thing.
not going to $4,300. The initial cost to fix your car was $1,700. You, as a matter of fact, accepted a check from his insurance company for $1,300.
I asked my attorney
Just
if I
a
was
second.
supposed to. I'm sorry.
You accepted a check for his insurance company for $1,300. Then, according to you, they canceled the check. Okay? And I'll see the letter why they canceled the check.
Okay.
Okay. And when you accepted the check, you signed a general release because the insurance company doesn't send a check unless you sign a general release for anything and everything surrounding the accident that took place on May 18th. That's what you sign. When you accept a check from an insurance company with regard to an accident, that's what you sign.
I had no clue as to what it was. You know, Your Honor, I referred to my attorneys and asked them what I should do, and that's
No,
what
just
they
a second.
advised me to do.
That's hearsay. Do you understand? That's hearsay. You can't tell me that. There is no attorney that would say, sign a release, and then we'll go on from there.
Well, I asked them if I was supposed to accept the check.
You no longer have that attorney, correct?
No.
The attorney said goodbye. Now, after this accident, which happened on May 18th, when was the first time you saw a doctor?
The very next day.
Let me see.
Here's all my doctor's notes.
No, let me just see from the next day.
Okay.
Says patient is disabled as a result of chronic back pain that affects her mobility and inability to perform work as required.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And now you work for whom?
Brand Lighting. This is also the report
Just a
from
second.
the-
What do you do for Brand Lighting?
Oh, I drive a stand-up reach machine, so I have to get on and off. And I also drive a forklift, sit-down forklift, where I have to climb up and down it to get on and off.
I got it. Mr. Escobar, you agreed to pay the damage to the car, correct?
Yes. Can I speak on that?
I'd like you to hear your excuse. You did not present to me anything with a medical write-up that suggests at all that this accident caused you to lose anything.
Melissa Baker has accused fellow motorist Jesus Escobar of hitting her vehicle while changing lanes.
Mr. Escobar, you agreed to pay the damage to the car,
Correct.
correct?
Yes. Can I speak on that?
I'd like to hear your excuse.
Okay, at this point, at the time of the accident, which was date of loss, May 14, 2021?
May 18th or May 14th?
14.
May 14th?
14.
May I see it?
That's not true.
It says date of loss.
Shh. Okay, so this insurance company found that there is a comparative negligence statute in California, which means to the layperson that they will look at an accident and they'll say, well, it's not 100% his fault or not 100% your fault, but they looked at the accident and they said, our insured, that would be you, is 75% responsible for this accident. And they found, which is not dispositive for me, that you were 25% responsible for the accident. You agreed to pay to have the car fixed.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Can I explain that why?
Go ahead, you could explain all you like, but you agreed to have the car fixed.
I was trying to be reasonable due to the fact that I was a truck driver. I'm off for 3 weeks, come home a day or half a day, and then I'm off for another 3 weeks. I was trying not to go to court. I was trying not to make things worse.
And you agreed to pay to have the car
agreed.
fixed.
I agreed to pay.
I don't care what it was. Nobody put a gun to your head.
No.
You know, nobody put you under a cattle. What was it? That thing,
I have no.
Yellowstone, where
I know what you're
what
talking
is that
about.
called?
I don't know what it's a cattle guard.
Cattle guard.
Yeah.
Nobody hid you in a cattle guard. You said, don't call your insurance, I will pay for the damage. So you got to pay for the damage. And evidently it hasn't bothered you enough because you haven't had the car fixed. Do you still own the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, you have fixed for $1,700. Now, you have no medical people here, do you? No, there are no witnesses over there. You've had a long-standing back problem. You went to a chiropractor, you went to a lawyer, on and off disability because of your back problem, and you did not present to me anything with a medical write-up that suggests at all that this accident caused you to lose anything. And if you have it, I'll be more than happy to look at it.
Okay. My attorneys highlighted that part right there.
I just looked at this.
I'm sorry, I must have gave you the wrong thing. Okay.
Well, do you have the right thing?
I thought it was talking about the acute back pain.
No, I don't. Not that I don't care about your acute back pain, but since you don't have an expert here to testify that back pain that was as a result of this accident, and the pro forma thing that you gave me a check off, patient has chronic back pain, doesn't do it for me. So unless I have a write-up from a hospital, from a medical facility, that this accident that happened, he says on the 14th, you say it happened on the 18th.
It happened on the 18th, ma'am.
It happened on the 18th.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I've had this. Oh, here it is.
Okay. Doesn't do it.
Okay.
Doesn't do it. He's got to pay to have your car fixed. $1,700. We're finished your judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
I'm satisfied. I'm just glad that the whole thing is over with.
I'm just glad that this is finally over.
It's been a year and a half almost, and my car is still damaged.
Pretty much, yes. I was in the middle lane trying to make a right.
The guy fabricated a lot of that stuff, but I just really want to be done with this.
She got road rage and speed her car up and hit me.
He just apologized a whole lot. He was feeling really good when he was driving. He was revving his engine a little bit because he has a Charger. Music was blaring loud. He wasn't paying attention.
I don't know how I could cut someone off and the person I'm cutting off would ends up in front of me.
I was going about my merry way, and I seen him coming towards me through from my peripheral vision.
How is that possible?
And I feel sorry now that I didn't call the police and have them to come out there to the scene. I know it's a COVID time. People was having a hard time with, making their money and the jobs and stuff. When the guy asked me not to call the police, I wasn't giving him a hard time, but then look what he did.
Accidents happen.
Be careful out there.
I think this is a good lesson for people like the defendant who, for whatever reason, he was a truck driver and didn't want maybe the points on his license or even the hint of a car accident to be on his record if that's his business. However, I think it could have saved him from, number one, making a gratuitous promise to pay for the damages to her vehicle, which he might not have had to had a police officer come out and made a report. And maybe they would have found him less at fault than his own insurance company. And then he wouldn't have been so quick to offer to pay for the damages. Or conversely, the plaintiff may not have mentioned anything about any back pain, and if today was the first time she was going to bring it up, I'm sure you wouldn't have offered her anything.
Well, she didn't bring it up. She's had chronic back pain now for 22 years.
Of course.
Her allegation is that this accident exacerbated that back pain that she's had for 20 years. Then you have to come in with a medical team to talk about what the nature of her injury was before, how it was changed as a result of this accident. Without that, a pro forma note that says so-and-so has chronic back pain and she can't work is not a reason to award you $10,000 for personal injury.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, I just think it's a good lesson that the police get called to the scene of an accident for a reason. And although you may be concerned with other consequences of calling them, sometimes it's just the right thing to do.
Smart thing to do. Yeah. Because clearly there was no issue of alcohol or drugs or driving while impaired.
Just an accident.
It was an accident. Yeah. And there was really no issue of neither one of them having insurance. They both had insurance. So it was really just, I don't want to have to deal with this. I'll deal with it. I'll pay.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully this
Case number 2059, Dobson versus Jones, Poindexter. All parties, please step forward.
Clarissa Dobson is suing her sister-in-law, Kenesha Jones Poindexter, for a trip and wedding expenses.
Miss Dobson, I assume this is your brother.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this is his wife.
That is correct.
They're newly married.
That's correct.
When were they married?
June of 2021, June 26th.
Were you at the wedding?
Yes, I was. I was in the wedding.
Wedding at your house?
Wedding was at my home.
This is the unfortunate circumstance that I read in your papers, which I hope to be able to resolve quickly. You've known the defendant for many, many years.
Yes, that's correct.
She became engaged to when she was getting married, and they were planning a wedding, according to you. And Ms. Poindexter, according to you, asked you to lay out certain monies for her for the wedding.
That's correct.
They were married. It was a joyous day, I gather. And then you asked her for the money back.
Yes, that's correct.
And she said, I never agreed to pay you any money. We're family. I've done things for you. You've done things for me. There was never an agreement for me to pay you. And your brother, he said, leave me out of this.
Yep.
I don't want to get involved with this. You two ladies take care
That's
of it
exactly
on
what he
your own.
said.
Okay, well, it seems like a family matter, then more like a court matter. I don't see stupid written over here.
No.
If somebody doesn't have $50 and you think I believe that you relied on her statement that I'm going to pay you for this trip that your brother is going on too, I don't believe it.
Clarissa Dobson claims her sister-in-law, Kenesha Jones Poindexter, is responsible for trip costs and wedding expenses.
You have your own home.
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me about your home.
Nice home, got a lot of land around the property.
How much?
I would say probably a half an acre, which was big enough to put up 2 large tents, 45 guest tables, chairs, the mayor, some police. It was nice.
And there were certain things that you paid for.
Yes, that's correct.
You paid for a photographer?
Yes, that's correct.
How much?
The photographer was $300, Your Honor.
Okay, what else did you pay for?
Because the party was held at the home, the wedding, all the events pertaining to the wedding party had to take place at the home.
Like what?
So like when we had our bridal shower meetings, because also Miss...
Oh, you mean the meetings to plan the wedding?
Right, to plan the wedding.
I'm not interested in
You're
that.
not interested in that?
I'm not interested in that. Yeah, so far we have $300 for a photographer that you say you laid out. Did she lay out that money?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, what else?
Her rides back and forth.
I'm not interested in her rides back.
Well, how was she going to get this? She's in Philadelphia. I'm in New Jersey.
$300 for a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
And just money she asked to borrow for the most part throughout the wedding.
Just a second.
So we have...
How much and when? So far, $300 for a photographer.
So on January 20th, Your Honor, we have $150.
For what?
She didn't say what it was for. It was for the wedding, though, because I have it here. Everything wedding is here.
Well, did she ask you for this $150 on the phone, in person?
She asked for it, like, over the phone, but then I sent the money, too. So anything that I sent to her, I always sent to her through Cash App because she's in Philadelphia, no car.
Okay. Then let me ask Ms. Poindexter. Ms. Poindexter, there would be no other reason for Ms. Dobson to send money to you through a Cash App during the wedding period other than for the wedding. Would that be accurate?
Not in January, Your Honor. We didn't start planning our wedding until 90 days before June. So anything that happened in January had nothing to do with my wedding.
Okay. Do you have Cash App statements before January?
I have nothing before January.
She has nothing before.
I have everything
only
from
after.
January on.
Only after. So that would be for the wedding.
We didn't start planning our wedding until about March. We got married in June.
So what would she be sending you money for?
It has been times, it has been times when I'll ask her for, let me get $50 or, it has been times if I didn't have it or I might have needed a car fare or something, and she would do that. She would lend me money and vice versa.
No, I'm not talking about vice versa. I don't have a counterclaim. That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100 and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used? Let's make sure I heard that right.
She says, it has been times when I'll ask her for, let me get $50 or, there has been times. And you asked her why. She said if I didn't have it or I need a car fare or something, and she would do that. She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you. Lend me money. So, okay, now we're going to get to Ms. Dobson. Yes. How much money did you send her via Cash App? Because she's already just acknowledged that those were loans.
So, 150, 100.
Let me have the dates.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go back. 150 on what date?
January 20th.
Okay, 100 on what date?
February 11th.
Next.
March 8th, $50.
Okay.
April 4th, $100. May 11th, $20. May 17th, $25. May 22nd, $205. 15 on May 25th. May 28th, $45, June 3rd, $15, and I had a February 28th in here for $50. That was the first one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had February 11th only, so you have another.
Right, a February 28th for $50.
Can I see all of those?
Yes, ma'am. There you go.
Okay. Sarah Rose, would you fix that up for me? Okay, and you, based upon the read back and based upon what I thought I heard, anytime she sent you money, it was because you ran out of money, you were in a bind, and she loaned you the money. That's what was here. Okay. So you have
$775.
$775. Has she paid you back any of that money?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, the photographer, I want you to tell me how it came about that you paid the photographer.
Because Miss Jones / Poindexter was waiting on unemployment to hit. And I'm not saying she wasn't trying to get the money up, because she was. But when the time came, this photographer guy needed to get paid, she didn't have the money.
Want to tell me about the photographer?
Yes, the photographer, I believe I was short like $300 some odd, and Clarissa did put the rest of the money.
Why didn't you pay her the $775?
I don't believe I owe Clarissa.
Well, you just told her that she loaned you the money when you were short, and she wired it to you or did whatever they do in a cash app. I don't understand all of that. You said it was a loan. Is there any reason why you didn't pay her back? No. Okay. So far I have $775 and $300. Next.
Okay, so now we have the trip. They are the godparents of my twins. Your Honor, we were inseparable.
Okay,
So,
they're the godparents of your twins, your
Yep.
twins.
Came time for their birthday. She said
Month and year.
April of last year, 2021.
Okay, April of 2021.
Right. So in the process of planning the twins' birthday, Miss Jones Poindexter said, oh, I would like to go. I'm just waiting on the unemployment, pandemic money, all that to hit. When it came time to go, they didn't have the money.
You're talking about the defendant and your brother.
Yeah.
They both went.
Right. So
Just a second. They
Yes.
both went.
They both went. That's correct.
And what kind of work does your brother do?
He was a chef at the time.
So he was working.
Yes.
And she wasn't working.
Yes. Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want to say. You know where I'm going, don't you?
I know where you're going.
Okay.
Like I said, we were inseparable, right?
I don't care. I don't
Certain
care about the
things-
social aspect of this.
Okay, but certain things she just didn't want to let him know she was doing, because at the end of the day, she thought she was going to get this money.
Miss Dobson, I don't care whether you say she didn't know what she was doing. You were already in a place where on January 20th, she didn't have $150, so you sent it to her. On February 11th, she didn't have $100, you sent it to her. On March 8th, she didn't have $50. You had to send it to her. So
I was
I
just
don't see
taking her for her
stupid
word.
written over here.
No.
If somebody doesn't have $50 and you think I believe that you relied on her statement that I'm going to pay you for this trip that your brother is going on too because his godchildren are celebrating a birthday, I don't believe it. So let's just forget a trip. $775 is what she says she owes you because she says it was a loan. $300 for the photographer. You have the pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't hear anything from you suggesting to me that this $300 was a gift.
I honestly did believe that she was doing it for our wedding.
Okay, good. $1075, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
So, Your Honor, what
This court is
about my
adjourned.
That's it.
It's just a sad situation all the way around.
That's probably how she feel right now.
I love my sister-in-law.
She love me and I love her. So what?
Honestly, I just want to be able to see my godkid.
I'm sure we'll be all right.
It's always unfortunate and sad when nice occasion turns sour by one thing.
Yeah.
And I thought the brother/husband was
The smartest one.
The smartest one. I'm staying out of this
Yeah.
between my sister and my wife.
Yep. The safest place he
The
could be
safest-
was right where
where he
he
was.
sat. Just unfortunate. I mean, families squabble all the time, but just to bring it into a legal system, there are ramifications for that sometimes your anger or emotions can get the better of
Yeah,
you.
that's true.
But to take it to a filing stage and to use the court system, that's just the next level that I feel like most family members don't need.
do.
And her mother, Angela North, are suing business owner Heather Olson for car damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2092, North versus Olson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. North, this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you have a seat? Because you actually weren't involved nor a witness to the incident. Are you the owner of the car?
No, ma'am.
Okay, why don't you have a seat? Tell me your first name.
Bella.
Bella. Bella, from what I gather from reading the papers, you and the defendant's daughter were good friends.
Yes, still are.
And have been friends for a very long time. So, not a very difficult case. You were going to visit Miss Olson's daughter, Lotus.
Yep.
And according to you, you've done that innumerable times in the past. You were also 17 at the time?
Yes.
You went to visit Lotus, I'm trying to find the date in your complaint, on April 16th of 2022.
Yes.
And when you got to the house, which you had done many, many times before, according to you, you parked behind the defendant's car.
Yes, I did.
Was the defendant in her car at the time you parked your car?
I did not see the car on when I pulled up behind it. I turned around for a moment to gather my things, to my backpack, my charger, everything. I then look up and I see the car is on. I never saw anyone. You
never saw anyone get in the car?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, could you tell me what kind of car were you driving?
A 2001 Honda Accord.
So a very small car?
Yes, sedan.
And you were in a large car, Miss Olson? Your car is a large car.
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of car is it?
It's a Suburban.
Now, can you tell me why you parked behind her car? If you parked behind her car, you were blocking her in.
Yes. So I parked behind her car because Lotus has told me in the past.
You can't tell me anything that Lotus told you.
Okay. I parked behind her car so that the driveway to my left was free for people to come in and out, because I am aware that she does have residents in her home, and I was...
But that means that she couldn't get her car out if you were parked right behind her.
Correct.
Okay. Now, is there parking on the street, Mrs. Olson?
Yes, Your Honor.
May I see that? No, I don't want to. Thank you.
May I describe what is in the photo?
Well, I'm just asking you, is there on-street parking here or not?
It's not laid out, but you're allowed to park on the street. We have also additional parking next door at the neighbors. They've invited us to park.
No, you can't tell me that they invited you.
Sorry.
I'm just asking whether Miss North could have parked someplace else. And the answer is she could have. It was more convenient to park behind your Suburban. Now, as you turned around to gather your backpack, according to your complaint, you felt something hit your car, your 21-year-old car, right?
Yes.
Would you look up 2001 Honda? Where did you get the car from?
I got it from a small dealership in my town, Sarasota.
Who purchased it?
I did.
For how much?
$3,000.
Okay. And you felt something hit your car?
Yes.
And then you looked up, according to what I read, and you saw the backup lights on.
Yes, I looked up, saw the reverse lights on, waited, saw the car back up into me, hit my car, I honk, the car stops. The car then continues to reverse again, hitting my car. I honk, they stop. I then turn back on my car. I reverse away so she can get out, and then she proceeds to leave.
Okay. And show me what the damage was to your car.
Yes, ma'am.
The Kelly Blue Book value is $2,500 to $3,500, so right in the range.
Great. What is this? A picture of?
The 2 scratches and the dent.
Let me see the whole car.
I do not have a picture of my whole car.
Well, that's unfortunate. I see a scratch. I don't know if it's a scratch. I see some...
There's a hole towards the corner of the light. That was not there before. My whole light is...
You mean this?
Mm-hmm. Yep. See where there's a gap in the light is supposed to be collided with the bumper, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It was hit and damaged.
Okay. Did you see her car when you came out?
No, Your Honor.
She didn't see you, so you were in the car, I assume, when she pulled up behind you. Do you understand? So she was in her car, in her driveway, when you pulled up in your car and blocked her car in. If you had seen her in the car, would you have parked behind her?
No.
So you didn't look to see whether she was in her car?
No.
And she was in her car, and her car is high. You look up, you have a big Suburban. You don't expect anybody to be stupid enough to park behind your car. You're in your car already, because clearly she didn't see you pull up because she was in her car, right? Now I'm going to ask you, because you say you don't remember hitting something or you weren't sure you hit anything. Is that your answer that I'm getting?
When my other daughter drove up, parked the vehicle, left it running, ran inside the house, I ran out and, of course, checked behind me and drove out.
No, I asked you a question. You didn't?
I did not hit anything.
Well, you don't remember hitting anything.
Correct, Your Honor.
Yeah, because I don't think Miss North would have made up this story. You had a big car, backed out, and you drove away. Did you see her car pull off when you backed out?
No, Your Honor.
You did not?
No, Your Honor.
When she pulled out, did she go in the same direction as you did or the opposite direction?
The same direction.
Okay. Did you see her car after you pulled out?
No, Your Honor. Not until 2 hours later when we met.
Tell me what happened 2 hours later.
After returning from my appointment, I met Bella at the next door neighbors where we parked, and that's when we examined each other's vehicles.
Well, did she call you? How did you find out that there was an accusation that you would hit her car?
Because we met at the designating parking spots that we've agreed to park at.
So there was just serendipitous that you met there at the same time, or had you been in communication either with her or your daughter?
I was at a brief appointment, and when I returned home, that's where I parked. And Bella also parked there because that is where we
Okay,
parked.
so when you moved your car after the defendant, according to you, hit your car, did you park in another spot?
Yes.
Did you park in the neighbor's spot?
I did.
Okay, so that would indicate to me that you were aware that you were supposed to, or could, if there were other cars in it, park in the neighbor's spot, because otherwise I wouldn't park in a neighbor's house. So you were aware you could park there.
I'm never sure when the neighbors are home or not, and I don't feel comfortable parking at a neighbor's
But you
house.
did park in the neighbor's spot after this happened on April 16th. You did not pull back into Miss Olson's driveway. You pulled into the neighbor's spot.
I did.
And then you went into the house to visit Lotus, right?
Yes.
Now, Lotus didn't witness this, I assume?
No.
When you met in the neighbor's spot, did you show Miss Olson the damage?
I did. We didn't meet there. We met outside of her house as I was leaving Lotus's house and she was going in. I confronted her about it, and then...
Tell me what you said when you say you confronted her.
17-year-old Bella North and her mother, Angela North, claim business owner Heather Olson owes for car damage.
Okay, tell me what you said when you say you confronted her.
Heather knew that she...
Don't tell me what she knew. Tell
Okay.
me what you said to her. That's the question.
I said, "Are you aware that you hit something earlier? That was my car. Do you want to go check it out?"
And she said?
Yes, of course.
And?
And then she did. She said, "Okay, the damage will probably be at least $600. And then she told me to go to an auto body shop, which I did. And she told me to get an estimate, which I did. And that was that.
Okay. Is that the conversation that you had with her outside?
No, Your Honor.
Tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her. Will you acknowledge that you met her?
Yes, when Bella and I met outside, she came at me accusing me of hitting her vehicle.
Tell me what she said to you and you said to her.
She did say that I hit her vehicle and asked me to look at her vehicle damage. Immediately, I agreed to go look at both vehicles, and we looked at both vehicles. We both took photos of both vehicles. There was minor damage all the way around her vehicle, and I could not see any damage on mine, and I could not understand.
Just a second.
Yes.
Did you look at her vehicle at that time? Why not?
We never looked at her vehicle. We only looked at mine.
Well, she drove in her vehicle.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you look at her vehicle?
It was about my vehicle. We were concerned with my damage.
It was your damage, but you were contributorily negligent.
I understand that, yeah.
Well, you'd understand that, so you'd want to look at her vehicle too. Did you ever have a conversation with her and say to her, take her to a body shop?
Yes, Your Honor, that is true.
Okay.
I said, go ahead and see if they can find any damage that could have been caused by an accident like that, because I didn't believe it, and I didn't remember ever hitting her, and I thought it would be more like $200. Bella did come back with an invoice for $600 or $700. And then
then?
that was shocking to me because I couldn't believe that there was any damage just from that. So it turned out that the body work she was going to have done was basically her entire bumper and both headlights, which seems like a lot.
Which is not the damage that, even assuming arguendo that you caused, she only showed me a picture of one headlight. Can I see the estimate that you have?
Do you want all three or just the one that she
What do you want to tell me, Lotus?
I was a witness to that conversation.
Oh, I'd like to hear it.
Yes.
Stand up, move over. Are you living at home?
No longer.
When did you move out?
I would say the second week of June.
Did you have a fight with your mother about this event?
No, I did not want to get
Great.
involved.
Great. Okay, tell me exactly what you heard your mother say.
She said, "This is my auto parts place, and if you go there, I will pay for those damages."
Okay, do you remember that conversation?
Basically, that's correct, that I said, go to this bodywork person that I know, because I thought he'd see that's silly and turn her away.
But your daughter is making a statement. Is that the statement? Go to my body shop and I'll take care of it.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Can I see the receipt that makes it? Have a seat, please. This says customer pays $0, insurance pays $7.95. In my historical brain of information, an estimate from a body shop when they believe insurance is going to pay for it is always a little bit inflated. Did you have your car fixed?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. You agreed to pay for the damage. That's what you agreed to. I will tell you, if you had not agreed to pay for the damage, I would find the plaintiff 50% responsible for this accident. She was as negligent as you were in hitting her car, and I do believe that you hit her car. So absent an agreement by you to pay for the damage, I would actually split this between the two of you and find the plaintiff 50% contributorily negligent. But since you agreed to pay for the damage and you acknowledge you agreed to pay for the damage, I must rely on this bill, which is $795. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you.
Thank
Court
you.
is adjourned.
I don't think it caused too much friction as we were never that close.
Still in shock.
Obviously, I'm still close with her daughter, so it hasn't caused too much friction.
I agreed with your judgment to give the plaintiff a little bit of money, but I'm not so sure on the contributory negligence reasoning. I agree that parking behind someone's vehicle is never ideal, but if you're going to operate a motor vehicle, you have to check your surroundings. I think that people have to be more careful when they're driving.
People have to be vigilant, but, you know, just because there's an accident doesn't mean it has to be always someone's fault.
Sure.
That's why they invented the doctrine of contributory negligence. I actually think it was just lazy of the plaintiff to park in a spot. She wasn't paying attention to her surroundings because she didn't see the defendant in her car. The defendant ran into her car, didn't see the little car behind. I believe that they were equally responsible. But for the agreement that the defendant made, I would not have awarded her the whole thing. I would have awarded her 50%.
Seemed like just a case of blind spots and bad timing.
Yeah, that's true.
19-year-old Isabel Irwin is suing her father, Neil Irwin, for personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 27, Irwin versus Irwin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Irwin, this is your dad?
Yes, he is.
And you're 19?
Yes, I am.
According to what I read in your complaint, your parents divorced when you were 10.
Yes.
And your father was your primary custodian. You lived with him.
Yes, I did.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes, I did.
When you were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, did you live with your father?
At the age of 15, I moved out because...
Okay, so at age 15, you moved out?
Yes.
Because here you said, when I was 18, my father kicked me out of the house for no good reason.
Yes.
Guess what? Well, you just told me that you left the house when you were 15.
Yes, and I lived with my mother for 2 years, and...
Okay, so from age 15 to 17, you lived with your mother.
Yes.
Is that because you were having difficulty with your father?
Yes.
Okay, and then you went to live with your mother.
Yes.
But that didn't last.
No.
So now, at 17, you go back to your father.
Yes.
And you stayed with him until you were 18.
Yes, correct.
So far, I have the fact that your family is a little dysfunctional, but that you had certain problems.
I moved out when I was 18.
Just to say that. Would that be a fair statement that you had some problems?
No, it would not be.
Okay. What high school did you graduate from?
It's a school partnered with the National Guard for kids that are off track to get them back on track.
Did you have to pay for that school?
No, they are paid by the government.
Could you look them up for me?
Yeah, it's a residential program for youths aged 16 to 18 who've dropped out of school or who are seriously behind in credits and need to catch up quickly.
Okay, so you were dropped out of school?
No.
Or seriously behind?
Yes.
Dropped out or behind in credits.
Okay. And how old were you when you graduated from?
I was 17 years old.
And so at that point, you moved in with your father?
Yes.
And why did you leave when you were 18?
He had evicted me.
Okay. And I'd like you to tell me your version of his evicting you when you were 18, because this case involves you're suing your father for items that he disposed of that were yours, and you want this court to award you $7,400 for the things that he disposed of that were yours.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me why you believe he evicted you when you were 18.
I believe he evicted me when I was 18 because I was buying my first car and he got jealous of the car I had, and he stated that when I moved back in for the second time. He evicted me the second.
No. We're on the first time that your father evicted you, not the second time. The first time your father evicted you, I can ask him, or you want me to stay with you?
You can ask him.
Fine. Tell me why you evicted her the first time, which you did.
The main reasons would be that she agreed to pay rent, which she never did. She needed
working?
Off and on. I'd say over the past 2 years, she's probably had, from my guesstimate, 15 to 20 jobs, all ranging from an hour or a day, I think the longest being about 3 months. Can't maintain a job, would prefer to smoke pot all day in her room and hang out with her boyfriend, basically. Which at the time, for the first eviction, she did not know Corey.
Okay.
But she still does the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. That's what you indicate here. So that was the reason that you evicted her the first time. And that was maybe in June?
I would have filed that June 9th of 2021.
June. Okay. But she came back shortly thereafter, in October.
The sheriffs removed her August 13th, 2021.
Is that because you asked her to leave and she wouldn't?
It's a three-step process. And I had a 24-hour notice posted to the door after 34 days.
Well, she's your daughter.
Yeah.
So there must have been some discussion, Mr. Irwin, with her. You saying to her, listen, this is not working out.
There wasn't a discussion, Your Honor.
Was not?
I served her the first notice. We talked about it.
Oh, you talked about it?
Prior to me filing. I told her I would do it. I don't think she believed me.
She knew you wanted her to leave as a result of that discussion?
Yes.
And she didn't?
She did not.
She had lived with you off and on, with the exception of 2 years that she lived with her mother, and part of it in a residential program. It's a residential program, correct?
Yes.
When she lived with you, she was 10 years old. Can you tell me, Mr. Irwin, from the time she was 10 until the time she was 18 and she was ultimately evicted, what items in the house she purchased? Bed, TVs, anything big?
She never purchased anything.
When she came back from her mother, what did she come back with?
I believe just a few clothes and a bag. She had to kind of run back.
And to the best of your knowledge, had your daughter maintained any sort of gainful employment the last 3 years?
No.
So other than the clothes she came back with when she was 17, there were no big-ticket items?
There were a few by the time I had to evict her the second time, but I would have furnished those, being, bed set, furniture,
bed.
Tempur-Pedic bed. I think that's part of what she's really wanting out of this $7,400.
Okay, so you purchased a bed?
Yes.
Because you didn't have one in the room where she was?
I was just trying to take care. Yeah, I was using the room for my own purposes. I live alone until she moved back in, and usually welcoming of my daughter coming home, so I furnished a room.
Okay, so that's why you left the first time. The first time you left because he got annoyed that you were hanging around doing nothing and smoking pot.
I did pay rent,
right.
too.
Right. And weren't doing it much.
No, I was not smoking often.
We're not doing much, is what I said.
Yes, I had a job. I worked at the beginning of the year.
For how many days?
I worked there for about 3 months, and then I worked as a kennel technician for about 2 months.
What happened to both those jobs?
My dad, his alcoholism, he would never let me sleep in the room as I was paying rent, and he would lock me out. He would lock me out.
Okay.
He would lock me out and he would flip the garage switch, so I wasn't able to get access to the house. I wasn't able to get clean, so I couldn't obtain the job, and my mental health wasn't there for that job, so that's why I took the kennel technician job, and that's when he evicted me.
Where are you living now?
With my boyfriend.
That's him?
Yes.
And where are you working now?
I am unemployed.
Sorry, that's easy. So now you're not working. Now nobody's locked you out. Nobody's made it impossible for you to work. And what kind of work does your boyfriend do?
He is construction. I do DoorDash.
Okay. Your boyfriend is construction?
Yes.
How old is he?
He is 20 years old.
You're Corey?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who do you live with?
My mom and her new husband.
How did I know that? How did I just know that? It's so perfect to be old that, I mean, I asked the questions. I could have asked the questions and answered the questions. So you and your girlfriend live with your mother?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what's the name of the company that you work for?
Landscape.
Do you work for them full time?
Yes, I do.
For how long?
I've been working for them about 2 months now.
2 months?
Yes.
Prior to that, what did you do?
I worked for JUDY.
JUDY, the dog products?
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened to that job?
I just wasn't liking the job anymore, and I thought I could do a lot harder work, and that's what I strive to do, is just continue trying to be the best person I can.
And what does your girlfriend do all day when you're out in your landscaping job for the last 2 months?
She stays busy going to the gym and making sure that everything is in tip-top shape, and just bringing me lunch when I'm on my break for work.
And you're living in your mom's house. Be a fair statement. You don't have to be a math wizard, which I am not, because you don't have enough money to move out into your own place.
Yes, Your Honor.
Does your mom work?
Yes, she does.
Who else lives in the house?
Her newly husband.
Now, you have a room in your mom's house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it furnished?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who bought the furniture?
I bought the bed set, and
Tell me when you bought the bed set.
I bought it about 2 years ago because we moved there recently.
So what you're telling me is you purchased a new mattress?
Yes.
With your earnings?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much was it?
It was about $1,500.
And if you left the house, you would want to take your mattress because you bought it.
Yes, Your Honor.
You wouldn't take any of the other furniture in the house because you didn't buy it.
Yes, correct.
Whether it's your dresser or a TV in your room, your parents bought that.
Yeah.
The mattress you bought.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you can sit. Show me that you gave him $3,000. I can't figure that you had saved $3,000.
I gave him that to purchase the mattress because that was the time I was purchasing my car.
How could you purchase a car? You don't work.
"19-year-old Isabel Irwin claims her father, Neil Irwin, owes for personal belongings."
Now, I'm going to sort of pull this together. Eventually, you moved back into the house after an initial eviction, and you weren't doing well, I assume.
Yes.
And then you came back a couple of months later and asked your father if you could move back in.
Yes.
And he said, okay.
Yes.
And that didn't work out. He was unhappy with the arrangement.
I was paying rent before. He was kicking me out, so I decided not to pay rent.
Whatever the reason, he wasn't happy with it. You were gone for a couple of months.
He evicted me, yes.
Yes. Well, he evicted you for a reason, Miss Irwin. You have to stop being a baby. He evicted you for a reason. He took you back because you went there. You said, I have no place to go. I assume, without going into specifics, because you look a little frightened, and I don't have to get that crazed with you because it sounds like a very sad situation. He said, it's not working out again. I want you to leave. And when you left, you did not, according to you, take your stuff. And your father, at some point after he received a text message from you, which I assume you have, sir?
I do.
Which said, have a nice life. After he received that, waited a while and disposed.
That was a statement I made because I asked him to help me fill up my tires because they needed air, and I saw him pull into the Safeway parking lot and leave with his groceries, and he never helped me.
Okay, so you said have a nice life. And then you want a whole bunch of things from the house. Now, I want you to tell me, with your limited work history, which you have, hardly enough to sustain yourself, because in October you came back to him and said, I need a place to live. So I want you to tell me what you purchased.
I purchased the Tempur-Pedic bed.
And who did you purchase it from?
My father.
You purchased it from your father?
Yes, he made the original purchase and said I could just give him the money, which I did.
Okay. And how much did you give him for the mattress?
$3,000.
That's incorrect.
Show me that you gave him $3,000. I can't figure that you had saved $3,000.
I gave him that to purchase the mattress because that was the time I was purchasing my car.
How could you purchase a car? You don't work. You don't work.
The first
This
one was
doesn't tell me anything.
Transaction that
This
you
doesn't
need to withdraw.
this doesn't tell me anything. You want to tell me that tells me nothing. You want to give that to her. I would have to find credible, Miss Irwin, that you had managed to save from your job that you had for 3 months while you claim you were paying your father rent, $3,000.
It was the leftover money from me purchasing my car.
Oh, I don't believe that. For 1 second. Okay, you want to tell me about the mattress, sir?
Okay, simply put, I got one for myself when she wasn't living with me, and the mattress I furnished her with, it was a floor model. He gave me a good deal on it. I think it retails about $3,500. I got it for $2,300. My daughter and I did have an agreement that she could purchase the mattress for $1,800. However, as you may have figured out, that did not occur.
And this was after she moved back in October, or when she was...
Yep, yes it was.
After she moved back in October?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mattress is staying where it is. Okay. Now let's go to dresser, nightstand, and TV. So you acknowledge that none of those things you purchased, bed, dresser, nightstand, and TV.
No, I did not purchase them.
Okay. Now that's your father's. He threw out my clothes, shoes, and jewelry. Now, you were evicted.
Yes.
Was it an actual eviction? Did marshals come to the house?
No. I got served the eviction notice on June 30th. He illegally locked me
No. Just June 30th.
Yes.
So on June 30th, you were given an eviction notice that said that you had to be out on what date?
In 30 days.
Okay. So far, is that correct, Mr. Irwin?
It's fairly correct. I do have the 30-day no-cause notice to quit that she was served.
Okay. And on what date did you leave?
On July 1st, because he had thrown a camera
Just a second.
at my boyfriend.
You left on July 1st?
Yes.
Tell me how you left.
I packed a small bag and I had left.
You packed a small bag that contained what?
A few of my clothes and whatever I could grab for a few nights.
And where did you go?
To my boyfriend's house.
So you went to Corey's house?
Yes.
Do you have a laptop?
I do not.
Do you have a phone?
Yes, I do.
Did you take the phone?
Yes, I did.
You took some clothes with you, and you knew that you had an eviction notice, correct?
Yes.
Tell me what jewelry you allege your father threw out.
He threw out my necklace my boyfriend had bought me. He threw out...
Which boyfriend?
This boyfriend, Corey.
Tell me about the necklace.
He had purchased it for my birthday.
Okay. Stand up, Corey. Tell me about the necklace you purchased.
I had purchased it from K Jewelers. I had purchased it for about $250.
Okay. When?
On her birthday, just a little before.
When's her birthday?
February 20th.
Did she wear the necklace?
Yes, Your Honor.
Every day?
No, just on occasions, whenever we'd go out and do stuff and all that.
When she came to your house with her bag, did you ever see the necklace again?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Do you know where this necklace is?
I do not.
Did you throw away a necklace?
I guess anything's possible because when she left and sent me the have a nice rest of your life text, it looked like a hoarder's room, so I guess anything could have been in there.
Who cleaned it up?
I did.
Didn't see a necklace?
Didn't see a necklace.
Okay. Were you looking for anything of value?
I wasn't looking for anything. To me, it looked like old clothes that probably hadn't been worn in years.
Okay.
I just wanted to clear out the room.
Fine. Have a seat. Other than that necklace, what other jewelry did you have?
I had some rings I purchased from Ojai, California on a trip I previously took for my dad.
Okay. What else? You took a bag of clothes. What specific, because you had jewelry, shoes. I assume you took some shoes with you because you were going to be there.
Not.
Well, you were wearing a pair of shoes.
Yes, I was. I was wearing my old shoes.
Okay. When you got rid of all of the stuff, Mr. Irwin, you didn't go through any of it?
No, I did not.
Did you give her any notice that she had 10 days, 2 weeks to get her stuff?
I did not give her notice.
On what date did you dispose of all of her stuff?
It would have been around July 20th, about 20 days after or so.
Okay, well, but even according to your eviction notice, she had 30 days to vacate.
Well, if you read the actual eviction notice, it's 5 days. After 5 days, you have to file another part of the eviction notice, which is unlawful detainer, meaning that she is now there illegally. So she left within the 5 days, willfully.
I'm 19 years old, and I want to live to be 79. And right now, that doesn't look good for you. I'm telling you, you look troubled and older than your years.
"19-year-old Isabel Irwin has accused her father, Neil Irwin, of throwing out her personal property. Neil claims he paid for Isabel's belongings.
Okay, so you didn't file the next step.
I did not.
So she left within 5 days. That was the
Yes.
and she just left the place a mess.
A mess, yes.
Okay, who is this?
This is my mother, Janice Leonard.
Could you stand up, please, for a moment? Miss Leonard, how many grandkids do you have?
Well, from Neil to I have 6.
Did you and Miss Irwin get along?
Oh, yes. She came to, we lived in Idaho at the time. I had an equestrian center. So every summer she would be there all summer long. We taught her to ride. She had the best horses. She jumped. She was a fantastic rider. But as the years went on, it was just getting more difficult. When she turned 14, her behavior changed drastically.
Can you describe, I know that you moved back to where your son lived. And according to the answer, he gave you a key to the house. He was in Las Vegas on a trip.
That's correct.
Could you describe when you went into the house what Miss Irwin's room looked like?
Every time I would go over there, the house would be worse every single day. And there was a very strong, pungent smell, so I thought the dogs were going to the bathroom. Her room was a total disaster. There's clothes literally strewn, I don't know how tall, but 12 inches maybe. Nothing was ever picked up. And one day, before Neil came back, I said, this place is really smelling bad. And later I learned that they were smoking marijuana. They would be in the bedroom and giggling and in the bathroom together. And when I would come, she'd only be there for maybe 20 minutes and they both would leave. There was no respect, I have to say. I've seen her in action and she can be very nice and very polite, but there's a whole nother side that is actually very scary, to the point when she was years ago, 14, my husband and I were locking our bedroom door because we were afraid of her when she stayed.
Okay, thank you. Isabel, is that what they call you, or they have a
Yes.
Isabel. Word of advice, caution, you're 19?
Yes.
You look older. That's not a compliment. You seem like an intelligent young woman.
Thank you.
But I see issues there of blaming everyone else, and it's very possible that your father and your mother and other people share the blame in your issues. That's possible. But at this point in your life, Isabel, you're just starting, and you can either spend your life blaming somebody else, parent, grandparents, siblings, for where you are, or you can say, I have to get myself some help and put a period, because I'm 19 years old and I want to live to be 79. And right now, that doesn't look good for you. I'm telling you, you look troubled and older than your years. Your father looks better. Your grandmother looks better. They look appropriate to their age and stage and clearer. So I think that you should get some help. I also think, Mr. Irwin, there were things in her room, and believe me, I have seen rooms like that. You know, I have been involved with lots of kids and grandchildren. Most of them grow up, and once they get a place of their own, they walk around with a bottle of Windex and Bounty and clean up after everybody's fingerprints. But if they're living in their parents' house or their grandparents' house, they live like slobs. Sometimes that never changes. But, you know, there's messy, and then there is dysfunctional. And what you are describing is dysfunctional. And I think if your daughter was honest, she would look and she would say, that's dysfunctional. You were in the room, Corey?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stand up. Would you describe your girlfriend's room in her father's house as evidence of being dysfunctional? Not a nom. Right here, Corey.
Okay.
Does her room look like your room?
No, it does not, Your Honor.
Okay. Would your mother permit your room to look like her room? Is not an answer, Corey. Would your mother permit your room that you're sharing to look like the room that was in his house where your girlfriend lived and you stayed occasionally?
No, Your Honor.
No. Okay, sit down. You should have looked for the necklace. He gave me an honest answer to everything that I asked him. So the necklaces was probably mixed in with a load of garbage that was there.
To say the least.
That was accumulated. It was like a hoarder. So I'm
Your
awarding
Honor,
you.
I have a
you
video
give it to your
of the
boyfriend.
room.
$250 to go and buy her a new necklace. Thank you very much. This case is over.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I agree with the judge's decision 100%. I think it was very fair.
I think it wasn't fair.
She has so much more potential than what she's doing right now.
I was just trying to get my belongings, and he literally just never wanted me to do it.
She's a great kid, and in all reality, she's just making some wrong decisions right now.
Not made any really bad decisions. It's all been influenced by my father. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I hope she grows up, and I love her.
I know I need to grow up, but he evicted me, gave me 2 days, and I didn't want to make my dad mad.
I hope you weren't talking about me when you were thinking of your grandchildren keeping messy rooms. I try and be neat and nice and organized.
Well, I wasn't thinking about you today as a law school graduate, but I do remember when you were in college and you were staying with us rather than in the dorm, keeping your door closed because it looked like somebody hit your room with a Mixmaster.
Maybe just a few too many open suitcases, I guess.
Yeah, open, unpacked suitcases. But got older and more respectful, and then you had your own apartment, and I remember visiting your apartment, and I said, who is it that lives here? I couldn't figure out who lived here. It's not the same person who lived with me.
It's a maturity thing, and I think I was shocked to see that she was only 19 years old, in line with what you said to her, that she looks older beyond her years, and some difficulty can do that to you, but you have to take accountability and do what you can to make your life organized and set yourself up for success.
That, you know, all that is true. I'm not sure that she has all the tools to do that, and I don't know if she has anybody there to guide her. It's too bad because she seems like an intelligent young woman, and her grandmother certainly portrayed a picture of a child who was accomplished when she was younger, and then something happened.
Yeah.
You know.
I hope she turns it around.
Hope she turns it around.
Kimberly Gutierrez is suing her mother, Rhonda George, for false allegations, debit card charges, and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2131, Gutierrez versus George.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Gutierrez, this is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And who is this?
My grandmother.
And that's your daughter?
Yes.
I'm reading the complaint and the answer, and this is what your complaint is about. You claim that your mother had you falsely arrested, as a result of which you spent 4 months in jail. While you were in jail, it is your claim that your mother used a debit card of yours, I think $3,000 worth, and you had some belongings at her house that you want. I gather that you've had some problems in your own life. You have at least 3 children.
Yes.
Was the state ever involved in placing the children in foster care?
No.
And what about your daughter?
My daughter, yes.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 19 months.
At what point did the state become involved with your daughter?
In May of this year, May 18th of this year, when there was false allegations made against, when my mom refused to give me my daughter back.
In May, when you brought your daughter to your mother's house, when?
I called my brother on May 17th of 2022, and I asked him to babysit my daughter.
Your brother. And does your brother live with your mother?
Yes, he was staying with her at that time.
So on the 17th, you asked your brother, who was staying with your mother, if he would babysit for your daughter. Where were you going?
I was needing to go to Fresno, and I had just received my income tax check. So I needed to go to Fresno, and I was on foot because my car was impounded the day prior.
Were you going alone?
To Fresno, yes.
So you brought your daughter on the 17th of May to your mother's house and your brother was supposed to watch him, according to you, while you went to Fresno.
Yeah, he met me down the street actually because there's a restraining order, so I didn't actually go to the resident.
Who has a restraining order?
My mother has a restraining order on me.
Is the restraining order that she has against you a final order or a temporary order?
It's good for 3 years, that's all I know.
That's a final order. Was that a final order of protection after a trial, or did you consent to it?
I was not notified of the court date. Didn't consent to anything.
Okay, so it was a default.
I don't know what that means.
It means you didn't show up and they entered a final order of protection in favor of your mother. So you're not permitted to go to her home.
Right.
Since that's not really the subject of this, I don't have to get into it. In any event, you went on the 17th, you dropped your child off at your mother's house, your brother was there, and then what happened?
I finally got to Fresno, I got a ride, I got to the check cashing place. It literally took me...
Don't tell me, I'm not interested in that. 17th, you dropped the child off. You were supposed to pick the child up when?
That evening.
On the 17th?
Yes.
And did you?
I showed up it was a little before 10. I showed up, I called my brother, I said, I'm down the street. He was like, yeah, I'll be right there.
10 o'clock at night?
It was almost, ma'am, I was on foot. And
it's just a second. I asked you 10 o'clock at night.
It was right before 10, yes.
Okay.
When I got there, I called him. It had been about 15 minutes had gone by, and I called him back, and I said, where are you at? And he said, Mom won't let me leave with the baby. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Mom won't let me leave with the baby. My mother instinct kicked in, and I went in like fight or flight, and I walked down to my mom's house, and I knocked on the door and was asking for my daughter. I finally came to my...
Okay, so when your brother said that to you, instead of going to the police, you violated the order of protection.
I ended up leaving and calling the sheriff.
Okay, but you didn't. You went...
Of course, yes. I was going for my daughter. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened at 10 o'clock at night or 10:30?
Yes. I finally realized that about 5 minutes of being at the house, I was like, okay, you need to leave. So I left because she wouldn't open the door to give me my daughter. I left. I called the sheriff. And so I told them the situation. So they had walked down to my mother's and let her know that what she was doing was basically...
No, not what she was doing. The police came
and told her
with
that they
you.
could arrest her. And told her that if she did not, that she needed to give my daughter back. But because it was late, the baby was already asleep. And so the cops that came back down to me and they said, look, we don't, because they knew me.
Whatever. I'm allowing you to give me a certain amount of hearsay so that I can make this story make sense.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand? But don't tell me because they knew you, what they thought.
Yes, ma'am.
You were told to come back in the morning.
Yeah, the agreement was that between my mom and the sheriff was that I could pick up Malia in the morning. The sheriff told me to call before 6 o'clock in the morning before he got off his shift and that he would come back out and do another standby. The next morning came. Between me and my grandma, I had to call my mom. And
No, just a second. What does that mean between you and your grandma? Your agreement was you were supposed to call the sheriff. The sheriff, according to you, before 6.
I called my grandma.
No, not the grandma. The agreement was you weren't supposed to call your grandma. You were supposed to call the sheriff.
Right, but I needed a ride. I needed a ride. So I called my grandma to have her come pick me up.
Just a second. Where were you?
I was staying at a friend's house. I didn't live in Selma.
Just a second. You were staying at what friend's house?
The sheriff came, got behind us, and tried to pin us in, and my grandma went to take off.
So your grandmother was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
And she was trying to evade the police to go someplace else.
Kimberly Gutierrez claims her mother, Rhonda George, owes for debit card charges and personal belongings.
You were staying at what friend's house?
My friend Isaiah's.
Isaiah?
Yes. I stayed the night there waiting for my daughter.
Just a second. Isaiah. Isaiah what?
Bonilla.
And what is your relationship with him?
He's my best friend. He's been my best friend since high school.
Where are you living now?
I live with my grandmother right now since I was released.
Full time?
Right now, yes.
What do you mean right now, yes?
I'm in the process of getting my own place.
Okay. So you called your grandmother and then?
Called the sheriff.
And then?
Waited for the sheriff to respond.
And then?
The sheriff did not respond for a few hours.
Okay, so you were waiting for the sheriff to respond. The sheriff did not respond until when?
It was after 7 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't even yes, ma'am, 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Your daughter is, according to you, 19 months old? 19 months old. And she had prior to that been living with you?
Yeah, she was living with me all the time, yes.
She was living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now let's get back to this arrest that you had. According to your papers, your daughter was with you up until that time. What time did she wake up in the morning?
Usually she wakes up between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, well, then could you tell me why, if she wakes up between 7:30 and 8, why you would even contemplate picking her up before 8 o'clock in the morning?
Because one of my issues was with certain officers that would have been responding, and the officer that responded the night of the incident, he told me if you wanted me to be the officer to respond, you need to call me before I get off my shift.
Fine, but he didn't respond to you. But according to you, he didn't respond to you.
No, it was
so
a different
my
officer.
question to you is,
They did respond at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And did what?
It was a horrible mess.
Well, he did what?
They responded. When they responded, he showed up. The officer told me that he did not want to be there. He said, if I have my way, you'll never see your daughter again. And I looked at him, and I said, wow. Okay.
What do you mean you looked at him? Where were you when you looked at him?
I was right next to him, but I just...
Where, at the precinct or at your house?
No, down the street from my mom's.
Okay, so he responded to you when you were down the street at your mother's house, and he said, I'm not getting involved in this, and if I had my way, you would never have your daughter. And so what did you do?
So at that point, my grandma pulled up, and I told him, I said, your assistance is no longer needed, and that my grandma could just get my daughter. And he says, well, you already called me. The deputy did. So I said, okay, whatever. He asked me if I had somewhere to live, and I said yes, and whatever. And so he went down to my mom's. When he went down to my mom's, he was supposed to just go down there and get my daughter. When he was taking too long, I could walk so far this way, and I could see straight down my mom's street. So I did. When I did, I seen that my mom was out there just giving him an earful. I know this woman very well, okay? So I just imagined what was being said about me. Well, I guess the back door is screwed and nailed shut at the house. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's not important.
Yeah. So anyways, my best friend went over the back fence.
What do you mean your best friend?
Isaiah Bonilla.
Oh, so you brought Isaiah with you?
He went...
Just a second. So you have your grandmother, and then you've got Isaiah, your best friend, also to go to your mother's house.
Yes, ma'am. He got my daughter.
Isaiah brought her to where you were.
Yes.
And then what happened?
I started walking back towards Isaiah's house. When I started walking back towards Isaiah's house, my grandma pulled up in her car, and she was like, are you ready to go get your car out of the impound lot? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. And so I got in her back seat with my daughter. When I got in the back seat, I got in the middle. Well, then she was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Your mom's over there saying a whole bunch of stuff to the deputies, so I don't know what's going to happen. And so I was like, well, I got to go get my stuff from Isaiah's. So I go to jump back out the car. As I go to jump back out the car...
Wait, just a second. Now you have your daughter.
Because I needed my wallet. My bag was at Isaiah's. My purse and everything was at Isaiah's. I was going to go back and pick it up. Well, right when we were going to go back, the sheriff came, got behind us, and tried to pin us in, and my grandma went to take off.
So your grandmother was driving.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was trying to evade the police to go someplace else.
Yes, ma'am.
And how many police cars were involved?
One.
Were there ever any more than one police car?
Once we got to the police department, of course, there's a police department.
No, I'm talking about the number of police cars. So there's a police car now.
Coming behind us? No. It was just one.
It was just one?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were accelerating
to
get there? Was the police car siren on?
No.
Well, how did you know that he was trying to pull you over?
Because he tried to hit her car.
Oh, that would give you a clue. So you're telling me he tried to hit your grandmother's car without notifying you in any way to pull over?
Yes, ma'am. That's why I spent 4 months in jail, and I beat my case. I went to trial and beat my case. Everything was dismissed.
I'm not responsible for the criminal justice system. I'm only responsible for what goes on here.
Yes, ma'am.
So I assume once you got to the police station, both you and your grandmother were arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in May?
Yes, ma'am.
And now uncross your arms. And now we're in December.
Yes, ma'am.
Of the same year.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're out of jail?
Yes, ma'am.
You've been out of jail for about?
Since August 25th.
Who does your daughter live with?
Right now, she's with the mentor. She's my ex-husband's aunt, ma'am.
And who placed her with your ex-husband's aunt?
I did.
Not the court?
No, I requested her.
Does the child's great aunt have guardianship?
No,
custody?
I'm getting my daughter back, ma'am.
But for the last 3 months, she's been with this aunt.
Right, because Child Protective Services did get involved, and Child Protective Services, I've been doing everything that...
That's what I asked you. I asked you whether Child Protective Services
Child Protective Services did get involved with my daughter, yes.
Did? That's what I assumed.
And I've been drug testing, I've been
doing...
Just
a second.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I assumed, that Child Protective Services was involved. And so if Child Protective Services are involved, then they are overseeing the child's placement with the aunt. You have an ongoing case.
Yes, ma'am.
Probate court.
No, not probate.
Which one? Family court?
Family court. Yes.
When was the case opened with regard to your daughter in the family
May
court?
18th, the day I got arrested, ma'am.
And that child became involved with the foster care system in May. Okay, so your grandmother also spent a little time in jail. How much?
2 weeks.
I quite frankly don't understand your case.
While I was in jail, Your Honor, while I was incarcerated, my mom had all my debit cards, my ID. She had went and actually, because of me getting arrested, she had went to Isaiah's and picked up all of my stuff.
You mean, just a second. Let me understand this. It is your claim that the reason that you had to go to Isaiah's house was to get your pocketbook, your wallet, your credit card that you left there.
But I never made it there.
I understand that. And Isaiah, clearly, from what you tell me, knew of the problem because he was part of this little conspiracy to get your daughter out of the house and was at the back of the house to pick up your daughter who was being put over the fence. So why would Isaiah give your mother?
Because she went over there with a baseball bat and busted out his windows. On February 4th this year, I lost my twins, okay? And that was the first time I had contacted my mother because I was going through it and I messaged her and I told her, I said, I really need my mom right now. If anything, I need my mom right now.
Kimberly Gutierrez is accusing her mother, Rhonda George, of wrongfully using her debit card and keeping her belongings.
So why would Isaiah give your mother?
Because she went over there with a baseball bat and busted out his windows. And the reason why all of my things were at my mother's was because I hadn't lived at my mom's for over a year.
What your case is about
is my belongings.
You claim that your mother went over and got your wallet from Isaiah's because I asked you what you were doing here. I certainly am not looking into the allegations of false arrest. It sounds as if you did the absolute wrong thing in trying to regain your daughter, whose custody, actually, you lost at a dispositional hearing and was determined to be a dependent child and placed in foster care. That's what happened here.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not even addressing your claims of false arrest.
Okay,
what you did was actually the wrong thing. I said, so what are you suing for? Now,
My
you said your
belongings,
okay.
my
What?
money.
Just a second. What money?
She used my CalFresh, which is my EBT food stamps, and my CalWorks, which is my cash aid through the welfare department.
Just a second. So you're suing her for taking your food stamps and your welfare check.
Right.
Just a second. Your food stamps and your welfare check.
And this is the statement from my tax return of all the money that was on there.
On where?
On my debit card. It had over $3,000 on it, and I marked what was used after she had picked it up. And then these are receipts from some of my belongings that was at her house.
Just a second. You haven't lived in your mother's house?
I moved back to my mother's in the
Just
beginning.
a second.
Yes, ma'am.
You hadn't lived in your mother's house, according to what you said to me. Whitney, was it a year ago? Didn't you say that you moved out of
My
your
mom
mother?
allowed me to come back.
Because there was an order of protection.
She had called me. I was living in Fresno, ma'am.
Just a second. You hadn't lived in your mother's house. You said you were living with your grandmother. For how long were you living with your grandmother before May?
I said I was living with my grandmother right now. I was living in Fresno, ma'am.
I want to know what property you think.
My clothing, my husband's clothing, my daughter's bassinet. I had jewelry there. I had all of my clothing.
Why would all of your clothing be there? You were living with your grandmother.
I hadn't moved into my grandmother's until I got out of jail. I was living in Fresno. And my mom.
Just a second.
You're not letting me talk.
I'm not understanding your movements.
Okay, my mom kicked me out in 2021, okay? My daughter was just a few weeks old. My mom kicked me out due to her boyfriend.
She kicked you out?
Yes.
And?
When she kicked me out, I went through Marjorie Mason, and Marjorie Mason had placed me in hotels. I was placed in hotels for about 3 or 4 months, okay? And then it was about January of 21. I was pregnant with twins. They had genetic defects. On February 4th this year, I lost my twins, okay? And that was the first time I had contacted my mother because I was going through it, and I messaged her and I told her, I said, I really need my mom right now. If anything, I need my mom right now. My daughter had not seen my daughter. She was not a part of my daughter's life. I did not speak to my mother, nothing. So she made an agreement that she would watch my daughter, because I had to go to San Francisco because I was too far along in my pregnancy, and it was just a big old mess.
Do you have any of your daughter's property?
No.
Okay, now, let's talk about this card. Did you pick up her property from Isaiah? That's either a yes or a no. After the 18th of May.
Well, how do I answer that when I did pick up her property, but her cards were not in there? Her driver's license wasn't in there. Her food stamp card wasn't in there.
What were you doing at Isaiah's?
So she asked.
Was this when she was in jail?
Yes, right after she got arrested. So I went down there. No problem. He handed it right to me. Look in my wallet, make sure everything's in there. Like I said, I don't know if it was her driver's license or ID was missing, her food stamp card, and the other card, the bank card. I don't know how to get proof, but her best friend, he cashed out everybody money. There was a bunch of people,
I have
even himself.
The information right here.
Even himself and his girlfriend. I don't want to get into the whole.
I don't want to get into it either. It's far too complicated for me. Is what you're telling me that you never used a card that she had?
No, I did not.
Because I'm not concerned about food stamps or welfare.
I did not.
You're suing the wrong person. You were in jail, so you didn't need money from welfare. What proof do you have?
I have my bank statement.
What proof do you have that your mother withdrew money?
She was the one that went and picked up my cards.
Oh, I don't know that. That's not what she says, and you have no proof. Isaiah's not here, correct?
No.
I don't doubt you when you say that somebody used your card. I just need proof
My
to
mother,
show.
I know that she was supposed to get my daughter from CPS. She was supposed to go get a crib with my card, and I have the where she, and my grandma can.
I just want you to show me.
Ma'am.
No. That your mother. I believe that people used your card.
She used my card.
No, I don't know that. I need you to show me proof that your mother.
How am I supposed to show? I have my bank statements.
Then I'll take a look at your bank statement. If your bank statement tells me who used your card, then that's an easy. She said she did not. I just want you to show me proof that any of these were used. I mean, we have a lot of PlayStations, DoorDash, Amazon Marketplace.
And
all
I
of
was
those.
locked up throughout that whole time.
I understand that. I suggest that you concentrate on getting yourself together. If you want to reunite your family, I suggest that you put your priorities in order.
Oh, they are in order.
Evidently not.
I work, I have a job, I go to school, I'm getting my own place, but I'm going to court, I'm getting my kids back.
Good.
Can I give you this?
I don't know what it is.
Well, I just want you to look at it.
What can I see? You're telling me this is part of your daughter's criminal history? What is this?
No, I'm just showing you she just got out of jail just a couple of days ago.
They haven't picked up charges, Your Honor.
You were arrested on November 28th?
Yes.
I'm not going to let you tell me about this. You have a lawyer?
Yes.
As I said, Ms. Gutierrez, if you're trying to work to get your family back together,
yes, ma'am,
and your kids back together,
yes, ma'am,
it would be a good idea to think about having more children until you get these children back under your roof. We're done here. Your case is dismissed.
You have a good day.
This court is adjourned.
Oh, I love her decision. I don't want to have nothing to do with any of them. They've burned their bridges.
Perfect example of suffer the little children. So you have 3 kids, none of whom live with you. They go back and forth between a grandmother who would participate in evading the police, but where the police had to stop them by ramming the car.
Yeah, I was going to say there was something in the papers about a crash and.
She said he tried to ram my mother's car. So fingers crossed for her.
Yeah, and the kids.
But take care of these kids before you think about having any more.
Yeah.